Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to the November 2025 edition of Some Words for the Week, a monthly segment brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast, where I read poems written by Alexander Shalom Joseph for the Mountaineer newspaper. If you haven't subscribed to the Mountaineer and you want to support local news from peak to peak, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com and click on the subscribe button in the top right corner of our homepage. From there, you'll get full access to our digital archives and scanned copies of our physical newspaper. And you can choose to send a physical subscription to your mailbox or to the mailbox of someone that you love. Before we get into today's segment, here's our top story today, brought to you by Brittany Wagner.
Our top story today comes from Christopher Kelly from Disaster Resilience, the Lakeview Fire. Some Netherlands residents said they were having trouble sleeping to explain why they were awake in the morning hours of Thursday, October 9th, 2025. Some were awakened by their own dogs or dogs in their neighborhood who all began to bark incessantly. One man up in Big Springs was preparing for a hike when suddenly he thought he heard an explosion. Residents reported hearing the loud crackling of the fire or looking out their doors and windows to the sight of flickering orange and billowing smoke. Some who were closer to the scene watched burning embers fall from the sky, landing and luckily spreading only ash about the landscape. An active Boulder County Sheriff's Office deputy called in the fire at 3:41 a.m. on Thursday morning. For the full story, you can find it in this week's Mountaineer or at themountaineer.com.
Thank you, Brittany, for today's top story. And now, some words for the week, written by Alexander Shalom Joseph. Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. I buy a box of garbage bags, and when I get home and open it to put one in the can, I realize the bags are scented. The whole of the kitchen is flushed with a smell of artificial sweetness. Maybe something that was once floral, but was chemically dialed up into this headache-inducing thing. But this is what I have, and I have 200 bags to get through, and I don't have time to return them. And so I try to make do. And as days pass, as I walk past the can, I get a whiff of this false sweetness being tainted by the slow rot of trash. And I think about our legacy. Like so many other cultures, our trash will outlive us all, especially now. What we use on a daily basis will remain for 1,000,000 years. And the more I ponder about our legacy, there is nothing more telling than these garbage bags full of plastic wrappers and wasted food, sitting in the dirt, smelling sweet and rotten for eternity. October 9th. In a recent conversation with a friend about my writing career and all the rejection and disappointment that it can sometimes involve, he reminded me of the definition of insanity being the act of doing something over and over again, expecting different results. And at first I agreed. Perhaps art making is insane. Perhaps putting myself out there in the way that I do, pouring my heart out onto the page and sending it out for it to be turned down or ignored, time and again, is perhaps insane. But as I considered this further, other words with almost the same definition began to appear in my brain. To keep going despite obstacles, despite setbacks, despite everything. This is the definition of persistence. of perseverance, of grit, of insistence, of faith. And then I began to think of all the good that humans have done. I thought of the scientific discoveries, of athletic achievement, of exploration to the seafloor, of exploration to the moon, of great feats of medicine, of nuclear disarmament, of peace agreements. And yes, there is so much bad, but in this we have persisted. In this, art and love and humanity and discovery and hope has somehow survived. People in all sorts of circumstances have risen to meet a new day, have done what they did the day before, expecting different results. And perhaps this is insane, but perhaps as well, it is perfect and human and holy to fall and to get back up and try again. Perhaps it would, in fact, be insane to give up. Perhaps in our persistence, we can prove that even definitions of words can be yet another obstacle to overcome. October 16th. Poem about the fire and for the fire. And then there was light, a hungry glow, eating up more than just a building, but the collective memory of this town. For each place is host to so much. Each place is more than just walls and wood and windows. Each place is all that it has ever been and more. What was burned contains where I first went to preschool, where I got my first crooked tattoo, where my parents used to go to the gym and met most of their friends, where I had one of my first legal beers bought after a long day's work on a mountain house chimney, where the first thrift store I ever went to was, and where I bought my first Hardt coat, where my first friend Max had a blown glass art shop, where Doug had so many instruments waiting for the right hands to pick them up and bring music into the world, where I first learned how to tell the age of a tree by counting its rings and the size of a mountain lion paw, where my first love and I would go and get pizza in the middle of the day, skipping fourth period and looking into each other's eyes, thinking we would be together forever. But forever is never true. So many firsts now gone, at last. This and so much else contained in these two stories of timber and lit up signs. So many lives over the years. So many dreams now spun up into the sky. And the fire is out. But this community still glows. And in time we will build something new. And in time, fill it with memories again. October 23rd. And in describing what was lost at Brightwood Music, many of the words are the same as if I were to be describing human anatomy. For imagine the whittled necks of violins, the shining sanded bodies of the guitars, the tremolo arms of some punk's future electric noise. And in this elegy, in naming what is gone, I am realizing that, in fact, a musical instrument is a sort of appendage, one which we use to make real all the sounds of our soul, a more apt translator of emotion than our own mouths. What a thing we have done in inventing such a tool, such a sacred limb, and what a thing to devote a life, a store, a career, so many practiced hours to such a craft. For there is a song in everything, just waiting to be let out. There is a song even in the flames. Imagine how it sounded as the wood warped, as the strings snapped, one by one. I wonder what chords were played by the fire. What needed to be translated, and what will be by those of us who remain to make music yet. I wonder what songs we will sing of this burning, and what songs will be born from the ash. For surely there will be many, and in this, Brightwood music, what it stands for, what it sold, the potential for music held in each instrument remains, and waits only for us to sing again. October 30th. And maybe all dirt is really the stuff of graves, for everything now stands on what was here before. I'm so young, but still, I've seen so many places that are gone, whether it's fire or retirement or gentrification or just people giving up. So much of what I knew as here exists only in my memory now. That greenhouse, that breakfast spot where I was born, where I went to preschool. I guess everything fades. I guess time tears it all down. But what a strange thing to be human. To find things that make us feel like we belong, that shelter us from everything else, only to have those things be bulldozed for new condos, or to sit as empty lots. The dirt holding so much memory, us holding so much too. Our heads so quickly fill up only of thoughts of what we lost, only to stumble on into what we will soon come to know, and what will no sooner disappear. Thank you for listening to this month's Some Words for the Week. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Mountain Ear Podcast. If you want to share this episode or others around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com and scroll to the Mountain Ear Media section of our homepage. You can find the Mountain Ear Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and wherever you're listening to it now, consider subscribing to hear more segments like this and episodes about local news. Also, be sure to head to our Facebook and YouTube, which you can also find in our Mountain Ear Media section, and our Instagram at mtn.ear. And finally, if you're interested in being involved with the newspaper or the podcast in any way, reach out to our editor-in-chief at info@themountaineer.com, myself at media@themountaineer.com, or front desk at themountaineer.com, or reach our main office at 303-810-5409. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your day.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak-to-Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.